Hello and welcome to this live conversation series for World Values Day. I'm your host, Anna McAfee, and I am absolutely delighted to welcome our guest today, Janic Gorayeb from Ripple Effect Leadership. Now, Janic is involved a little bit behind the scenes with World Values Day, as am I. So we have gotten to know each other quite well through lots of content planning and content creation. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Janic has an amazing business called Ripple Effect Leadership, all centered around values. So I'm delighted to welcome you, Janic, and have this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. This is my first LinkedIn Live, so it's pretty exciting.
It is exciting, yeah. And if you're watching live, please say hi in the comments. Let us know that you can hear and see us. It's always good to know. And perhaps where you're watching from, that would be great. And if you do have any questions throughout, please pop them in the chat. Or if you're watching the replay, please also pop them in the chat because we should be able to pick those up and perhaps answer those within the LinkedIn feed, if that makes sense. So, Janic, my first question for you is, given that we're talking about values, what are your values and how do they guide your business?
Yes, thank you for the thoughtful question. My top four core values are creativity, fun, collaboration, and productivity. And I would say creativity and fun are two natural core values for me. I kind of build it into everything that I do in my life, whether it's personal or professional. But when it comes to my business with Ripple Effect Leadership, I build it into everything I do, including designing my space, as you can see here. But I build creativity and fun into all my workshops, my leadership retreats that I organize and that I host. I kind of call myself a creative curator for that reason, because I've been told for many, many years, oh, you're so creative. Oh, that was such a fun event. And I don't know, I just think that we need a little bit more of that in our lives. I think that I build fun into Ripple Effect Leadership by doing Instagram Reels, which I, never say never. I never thought I would ever do Instagram Reels, but, since fun is one of my core values, I thought, got to do it. I try to have fun check-in questions with my meetings and my workshops and my retreats. And then also with my students through my Kick-Ass Leadership program, we meet once a month on live. And I would just try to build a bit of creativity and fun into that as well. So yeah, I think that I kind of build those two core values into everything that I do. Collaboration, I seek out just a lot of collaborative opportunities, with World Values Day, with the people that I work with through Ripple Effect Leadership. If I'm hosting an event, when I book speakers, I really try to collaborate with them around like what their ideas are and their insights are on the event at hand. And even just like people who I'm working with, I really seek out people who kind of have that same vibe as well. And I think that productivity is also just a big part of who I am and what I do, in the sense of I'm really always trying to help people be a bit more efficient with the work that they do. And that's a big part of what I teach with entrepreneurs, is how to be more productive and efficient, not work more, but work smarter, of course, and to be more efficient. And I also do that through an online training that I developed on how to help people manage their emails better, to be a little bit more efficient that way. So yeah, those kind of little pockets of how I build those core values into my business.
I love that. And I do think knowing your content, I do think that is something that makes you quite unique online with the business and approach to leadership, because the creativity, I mean, it's fabulous.
Thank you.
So our topic today is how entrepreneurs can use their core values to build, the business foundations or foundations for their business.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's important, or in your opinion, why is it important for entrepreneurs and side hustlers to build a values-based business?
Yeah, I think that, when you kind of look at what's happening on social media right now, there's a lot of push for entrepreneurs to make sure they have their systems in place, their email sequences in place, their funnels in place, especially if they're building an online business. And those automations, which are all really important. Those are things that I work on as well with my business. But I think that there isn't a lot of conversation around how to lead ourselves through those phases, how to lead ourselves as the founder of our businesses. And I think that there's a lot of people who aren't feeling that confidence in their leadership abilities. And so it might hold them back a little bit when they want to, when they want to kind of launch their business. And I've actually been doing kind of my own little market research the last 6 to 8 months. Anytime I meet with an entrepreneur, I ask them, how do you see yourself as the leader of your business, as the founder of your business? And to date, I've had almost 80% of people say that they don't identify themselves as a leader of their business, even though they are the founder of their business. And I just find that so fascinating. And so I really want to help entrepreneurs kind of build that confidence in their abilities and build that confidence that they are the leader of their business. And I think that knowing your core values as an entrepreneur as well is super important, because it'll help people make decisions. It helps with reducing stress. It helps during times of conflict, and it really helps with motivation. And just a little side note as well, I think that there's so many different ways entrepreneurs can use their core values in their business, including hiring the right people. My current content writer that I work with, she's in St. Lucia. I'm in London, Ontario, Canada, and I just loved her website. And it was all words like creativity and fun and funky. And I thought, oh, I want to work with that person, right? So I made sure that my core values really align with the people that I'm working with. And then entrepreneurs can use their core values as content for their social media and on their website as well.
Yeah, that's really good. And I think you're right. I know in my own experience, people don't think of themselves as a leader when they don't lead people as a direct employee, for example.
Yeah.
And without that there, you're right, people don't identify as a leader.
Yeah.
Well, not always, and they should, because they
Yeah.
are leading.
Yeah. And I think that especially since the pandemic, there's been so many people who are jumping ship from their full-time jobs or want to, start their own business because maybe they don't have those opportunities to lead teams or to build their own thing. And then they kind of forget about that transition of it's important for entrepreneurs to see themselves as leaders as well within their own business. And yeah, I'm just hoping to, help more and more entrepreneurs build that confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Janic, how did you discover your passion for leadership and your desire to mentor others?
I had to think about this question for a little bit because in reflection to the time when I was doing my master's of leadership at Royal Roads University in my late 30s, it was really when it sparked my first interest around starting my own business in general. And the experience there's a lot of reflective practices during the first year of that program. And it really helped shift my perspective on leadership and mindset. And through some of those kind of reflective exercises that we had to do, I had the opportunity to really kind of look at my entire career and look back on both positive and negative experiences throughout my career. And thank goodness I've had mostly really positive and amazing experiences with colleagues and people that I've had the opportunity to report to. 3 people in particular kind of put up on a pedestal as like really amazing leaders. And they really showed me what leadership was. And they really, and it really had nothing to do with their titles and hierarchy, right? On the flip side, I've had some significant negative experiences in my career with a handful of people over the years who were bullies or didn't care about leadership or collaborating, didn't care about building trust, and used their titles really to make some really horrible decisions. So I think that from these negative experiences, I made a conscious decision to never make other people feel this way. And I think that that's when it really sparked my interest in kind of moving towards building a leadership consultancy business, but also really in the last year or so, really focusing on helping entrepreneurs with their leadership abilities and their confidence and their capacity and that sort of thing. So I think that there were kind of pockets of time in the last 5 years where I was like, okay, yeah, this is kind of where I want to move forward. And this is a passion of mine.
Yeah, definitely. I love that.
Thanks.
What would be your advice to a business owner or somebody who is starting perhaps a side hustle, or really just, I suppose, anyone in general? Your advice to someone who doesn't really know their values. What would be, your advice on how they can go about discovering their values or thinking a bit deeper about values
Mhm.
that they have in mind?
Self-reflection for sure is number one. I actually have a full process, kind of a step-by-step system that I developed for my Kick-Ass Leadership program, where I really help entrepreneurs and other people, not just entrepreneurs, kind of go through those steps of identifying what their core values are. And there's a whole bunch of steps, but I would say the top three steps are self-reflection, examining past choices, and also identifying role models. And so with the self-reflection exercises, I ask them questions like, what activities do you love? What activities make you feel really good and fulfilled and happy? What are some principles that you instinctively use to guide your decisions and actions? And then also, what aspects of life do you find most meaningful and important? So, just taking some time with those questions. And in examining past choices, I really encourage people to review important decisions that they've made in their life and consider the underlying motivations behind those choices. And this can really provide some insight into their values and priorities. And then really dig into who your role models are. Like I mentioned before, there's three significant people in my life and my last 23-year career that I really looked up to as leaders. And what were their qualities, right? And that their qualities were collaborative. Their qualities were, providing you autonomy to get the job done, but also being there when you needed them, being open to communication. And so, I think that those are three great starting points, definitely, to start thinking about core values for somebody.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's actually really interesting, the looking at role models. I don't think that's something that we do enough. And particularly when it's other role models in business, for example.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think about a few people I know in business that I admire greatly. Yeah. And I suppose that I've never openly thought about, well, what are their values and what do I like particularly about? Yeah. I mean, it's perhaps an underlying thought,
Yeah.
But yeah, that is really, really interesting. Yeah,
And,
that's great.
Ultimately knowing your core values really helps also especially for entrepreneurs, marketing and branding and all that kind of stuff, right? But I'll go back to my comment before about those kind of negative experiences that I've had throughout my career. I just remember consciously making the decision that I don't ever want to make somebody feel the way that this person made me feel, and really digging into those situations as well when I was developing my own core values, making sure that I didn't align with that style, but really my own personal style.
Yeah. I mean, that's really great. As a business owner yourself, Janic, what steps do you take to stay motivated and resilient sort of during times of uncertainty or when you've had setbacks? It's something I know it's staying motivated and productive. What steps do you take to ensure that you're on track and being resilient and you keep moving forward?
Yeah, I think that surrounding yourself with like-minded people is definitely a first step, especially when you're going through like a difficult time with your business, or you've hit like a little roadblock of some kind. Hi, Rachel. I think that really surrounding yourself with other like-minded entrepreneurs really helps with that motivation as well, and is a good check-in. I lately, because I'm now doing my business full time officially after 5 years of building it on the side while working full time. I've been actually reaching out to a lot of other contacts and acquaintances that I know in London, Ontario here, where we just meet up at a coffee shop to work side by side. And apparently that's called body doubling. Apparently, like when you're working with somebody side by side or across from each other, you're just more motivated to get shit done, really, and just more productive. And so I've been doing that a lot to help me stay motivated. And then I also, when I'm really feeling overwhelmed or really stressed out, or just need a good reset, that's exactly what I do. Is I reset my space, my office space. I reset my email. I reset my file folders. And then lastly, because creativity is my top core personal and professional core value, I have to build little pockets of creativity. So for me, I've been doodling a lot lately. I participated in the 100-day project online again this year and did like 100 different doodles over 100 days. I make wind chimes. I just love being creative. And so that's just kind of a natural thing that I build in to really help me stay motivated and to just not focus on the setbacks, but just really kind of move forward.
Yeah, that's great. I apologize for my screen flicking. I've got a noisy
Okay.
helicopter. I keep muting myself. That's why I keep flickering. So
No
you can't hear that. So my noise isn't drowning out yours.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that. I love that approach. I have never heard of body doubling. I know people who do co-working and online co-working sessions, but I've never actually heard that phrase. How interesting.
Interestingly, it was my therapist who told me that.
Oh,
I mentioned to her, I was like, this, which is like, it's called body doubling. I'm like, oh, interesting. She goes, it just gives people that motivation and that productivity. I'm like, huh, okay, good to know.
Well, there's a term we can bring perhaps into more that you don't hear a lot about that in a work context, actually.
Yeah.
So
And
that's
maybe I'll add that to my list of how to stay motivated. Get a therapist if you're an entrepreneur and also trying to build your business. I mean, we all need a therapist at some point, right? Just kind of.
Yes, and actually, I've been talking to a few people recently. There's some pretty amazing AI therapists or business coaches out there.
Yeah.
So not that I have experimented with it, but yeah, how interesting. That's fascinating. If anyone has any questions who's watching, please pop them in the chat. I can bring them up on screen for us to address and have a chat about.
Hi, Rachel. Hi, Martha.
It's lovely to see Martha here too. Thank you, Martha, who's also involved with World Values Day and helping us out behind the scenes, which is fantastic.
And Rachel has participated in some of my programs to Ripple Effect Leadership as well.
Oh, there you go. Well, fantastic. Janic, what have you got planned for World?
Oh, you're frozen. So I'm just going to give you a second to. Oh, can you repeat your question for me, Anna?
So what? I'd love to know what's coming up for you. First of all, what do you have planned for World Values Day this year?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to be hosting a free webinar called Valuepreneurship, Building an Online Business That Rocks the World. So it's going to be geared towards entrepreneurs, but really just helping them talk about more about core values and the importance of core values and really using core values to build the foundation of their business. So that'll be on October 19th on World Values Day. So I'm excited to offer that.
Fantastic. And you've got some other things coming up sooner than that, don't you?
I do. Thank you. So next Wednesday, August 2nd, I'm hosting a free webinar called From 9 to Thrive, Juggling Full-Time Work While Building a Side Hustle. So once again, for entrepreneurs who are building their side hustle while working full-time, I'm going to provide some tried and true methods of like time management, how to stay sane through working full-time and also building your business, and just going to share just some of my experience, from the last few years. Yeah, excited.
Excellent. We've got
Thanks,
Rachel's
Rachel.
excited about that, and I'm excited about that too.
Thank you.
I wouldn't call myself having a side hustle, but being a parent, I feel like
I
might have one of them a hustle in there somewhere. So
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
So that's great.
Yeah.
Janic, is there anything else you wanted to add? Anything we haven't covered that you'd love to let the World Values Day audience know? Anything that comes to mind before we wrap up the conversation?
Yeah, I think just, even if you're not an entrepreneur, even if you're, working full time for an organization and you're living their core values, that's great. While you're working, but also I think it's important for all of us to really determine what our own personal and professional core values are. If you're looking for a new job, like making sure your core values align with an organization that you want to potentially interview with, I think is also really important. And, they're a compass, right? They just help us, they guide us, they help us through good times, they help us through hard times. And I think it's just, I think more people should just really reflect on what their core values are. I don't want to should people, I think it's important to really reflect on, what your core values are. And sometimes they'll change, right? Like I always, encourage people maybe check in with yourself every 5 years or so, especially if you're changing careers, changing jobs, life changes, like we grow as people. So sometimes our core values will shift and adjust as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really important acknowledgement to make because people do go through huge life changes. And of course, our values will shift because of that. Yeah, that's a really, really important point.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Janic. This has been lovely.
Thank you.
And for those that are watching, please check out Janic on LinkedIn. She's very active on Instagram and has some fantastic creative ideas in her stories. So please do also check her out there too,
Thank you.
and Facebook as well. And there will be more of these conversations happening in the lead up to World Values Day. So keep an eye out on the page. There'll be lots of really interesting discussions, some pretty juicy topics as well coming. So I'm excited to bring you those.
Yay.
Have a fantastic evening if you're in that part of the world, or fantastic morning if you're in my side of the world.
Yes.
And yeah, thank you so much, Janic. This has been lovely.
Thank you,
Thanks
Anna.
everyone for watching.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.